Welcome, everybody, to the Sports Hub Underground. Matt Dolph here with Ty Anderson, as we are every single episode. You can, of course, get us wherever you get your podcasts, and you can get every episode at 985thesportshub.com and the Sports Hub app. Possibly not this episode, Ty. There's a chance this episode is actually YouTube only. We're having issues with we're moving over to a new podcast platform right now, so bear with us, folks. Technical difficulties. But if you're a YouTube fan, you're on YouTube, you're here, and so the YouTube people are celebrating right now, getting to see our lovely faces, talk about some hockey. So how are you doing today, Ty?
I'm doing wonderful. We're only days away from the start of Bruins training camp, where everything's starting to get kind of real here. A little bit of a chill in the air. It's nice.
I like the fall air. I like the crisp fall air personally. We've been over it a million times. I hate heat waves. I hate humidity. That 70-degree fall air is just perfect, and it does signify the start of hockey season, which is good.
It's good for me. I got something to do finally.
Yeah. You've just been flailing around, just getting 20,000 page views on Red Sox minor league deals and shit.
It's unbelievable.
Like that.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Can't believe it. Can't believe it's in my life.
now you'll be getting 20,000 hits on Bruins minor league deals and PTOs and all that fun stuff.
Yes, exactly.
But yeah, so we were a little pressed for time on the last episode. We didn't do really the full team preview of training camp. And we now know that Wednesday is going to be sort of a reporting day for players, and Don Sweeney will talk. Marco Sturm will talk. I'm sure you will be down there. You will be getting a good old-fashioned Donnybrook with Don Sweeney, as you usually do. That'll be fun. That'll be must-see TV. Curious to see what Marco Sturm says, if they ask him about the captain thing and all that. But where I wanted to start, Ty, is the area of the team that we didn't get to cover on the last episode, which is the goaltending. Mm-hmm. And look, there's not a whole lot to actually discuss, to be honest. Like, what else can we say about Jeremy Swayman other than he has to bounce back, But look, I think he will. Like, you look at the numbers last year in the NHL, Swayman only needs to be 2.5 goals against and about a 9-10 save percentage to be a top 10 goalie in the league. Like, tell me he can get to that level, right? Like, with the defensive restructuring system-wise, the refocusing on defense under Marco Sturm, they want to be hard to play against. The forwards are going to be, for all the belly aching we did on all their signings, like the forwards they signed are going to be hard to play against,
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to police their own end of the ice, hopefully reasonably well. It's not going to be as much of a fire drill as we've been used to seeing under the last couple head coaches in town. But then, Swayman has to be that last line of defense, as he always is. And, I'm confident he will be, because it's going to be a full year of camp for him. A full camp. And like after the whole debacle with the contract last year, missing all of camp, like I think he never really got his feet under him. Like he only flashed last year. And I just don't think last year was the real Jeremy Swayman. I think the real Jeremy Swayman is going to be, something closer to what we see this year. So what's your initial thought on Jeremy Swayman and the goaltending situation coming into camp?
Yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily unfounded confidence per se, because no, there's a track record here that you can feel pretty good about. I mean, I look at Jeremy Swayman as a goaltender who, he's effectively had 5 NHL seasons. He breaks it in 21, so 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. So you've had 5 seasons basically to analyze this guy, and you've had 4 really good seasons and 1 really bad one. So if you look at the math of that and you say, okay, well, the odds are he's going to bounce back, right? And I do feel confident that he's going to bounce back. I mean, this is a guy who is still on Team USA's radar, right? Like, he played for them at the Worlds. He was their starting goaltender. He's in line to be their third goaltender in the Olympic Games this year. So like, they haven't given up on him, right? The Bruins made an 8-year commitment to him. They haven't given up on him yet, clearly. And so I just think that like a normal offseason, a normal summer, like he has a chance to get right and mentally prepare himself and physically prepare himself and all of that. And, I don't know if I'm reading too much into what was a otherwise dog shit year, but like he finished pretty strong, I thought he was good in April. I really did. I thought he had some games in April where you went, oh, okay, this looks like the Jeremy Swayman of old here,
Yeah.
in what you thought you were going to get out of him. So I look at that and I feel a little bit confident. Like, am I saying no, pencil him in? I'm not saying pencil him in for an all-star game, in a top 5 Vezina finish, but like you saw flashes there, and then he parlayed it into a good showing at the Worlds, and like I think you should feel pretty good about him. Not great, but almost like last season was the absolute bottom. It was the bottom of the ocean, with all the flashlight fish and the scary dead bodies in the Titanic. Like, and you can't go lower than that, right? Like you just can't. And so I think he's gonna be better this next season. And I do think that it's gonna be a more normal year for him. And normal is good, right? And I think for a guy like Swayman, a normal year, a year where they're not spending resources and games played to quote unquote get him right, I think that's going to be beneficial for him and for the team as a whole.
Yeah, like I think he finished strong. And like side note, the same thing for Elias Lindholm. He had a good Worlds, and like so you wonder if they can parlay that into this coming season. Yeah, I just think it goes back to having a full off season and having a normal off season. Like the contract is what it is. That's all behind them, and hopefully he can put that behind them. And like maybe it's going to be a bit of an adjustment with the new head coach and the new system and all that. But like goalies are kind of on an island, right? Like they're kind of all in they're kind of in their own world. So that's like that is the risky part of the season. I think is that so much is riding on Jeremy Swayman, and it's really on Jeremy Swayman, right? Like maybe you give goalie Bob like 3% of the pie there, but it's really going to be on Jeremy Swayman's shoulders. And look, he does himself no favors with like just the way he talks, like his rhetoric. I don't know how else to describe it. But he's a confident guy. Like I feel like he knows he wasn't nearly good enough, right? And like he's still confident in himself. And I admire his optimism, even in the face of the bleak nature of the season last year. But yeah, I just think like he's going to carry himself, like the confident guy that he is.
Yeah, I mean, how like that's kind of his whole thing, right? Like his whole MO is the way he speaks and the way he carries himself is a little bit, always looking at the positive, always looking at, what they can do. And if it's a good thing, experiencing it again. If it's a bad thing, never experiencing it again, and so he kind of talks like that in general. It's just sort of like when things are going poorly, you don't want to hear it, right? But like he's always been that guy, and that alone, I think, like to your point, like that's a sign of a pretty good goaltender, right? Like good goaltenders, I have found they often keep their message the same, right? Like they're not going to walk in and say like I am the worst, and then one day be like I am the best. Like no, they tend to keep a pretty even keel, right? And I think that you got to have that mindset, right? And I think he does have that mindset. It's just things are going really poorly right now. So no one wants to hear him talk about himself in the third person or talk about how he's in a much better place. Like you kind of have to go out and show it. Right. And so I understand that part of it for a lot of Bruins fans. Like if you're looking at his comments and you're kind of annoyed or you're just like, I don't care, dude, I want to see it. It's like, yeah, I get that. How could you not feel that way given the year that he had? And I just feel like, we've talked a lot about this team, right? This offseason. We've talked about what we like about them, what we don't like about them. But if we are to keep it to our faith in the things that could bounce back or could return to form, I know Pastrnak is going to put up 100 points. Like as long as he's healthy, he's going to probably have 100 points, right?
Yep.
I know that they're going to struggle to score goals consistently at 5-on-5, most likely, right? I hope that Hampus Lindholm is healthy. I hope that Charlie McAvoy is healthy. I hope that Nikita Zadorov can have another plus 25 season while the team, independent of what the team does, goal differential wise. But out of that whole grouping, I have to go back to what I said. The most confidence I have is that Jeremy Swayman is not an 893 goaltender in 25-26. Like that's the one thing I feel the most confident in either not happening or rebounding in the right direction compared to everything else we're talking about right now. Aside from David Pastrnak having another 100-point season, that is the thing that I am probably most confident in happening for the Boston Bruins in 2025-26.
Yeah, I'm pretty much on board with you there. I was just actually looking through his game log. So he gave up 3 or more goals in 35 of 58 appearances.
Not great.
He gave up 5 or more goals in 11 games.
Mm-hmm.
He gave up 7 or more goals in 3 games. That's not happening again. There's no way that happens again, right?
No,
crazy.
so 58 games, and he had 11 appearances of what, 4 goals or more, you said?
He had 11 appearances of 5 goals or more.
Okay, so that's 19% of the time. 1 in 5 starts, he was giving up at least 5 goals. Like, if you can get that number down to like 1 in every 3 starts, or I'm sorry, like 1 in every 7 starts.
Yeah, the other way, other direction.
Yeah, the other way. You feel a lot better, right? Like,
Yeah.
like the way the game is going, you're gonna have nights where you give it 4 or 5. Like, it's just teams are too good, offenses are too good. It's a power play driven league now. You know, the video coaching, the video scouting is like next level. It's just you can't have a weekly calamity, right? Like by the way that he was averaging those kind of ugly starts, like it was a clunker a week, right? And so you can't have that. And if this team is gonna be as good as they want to be and as good as they believe they can be, that can't happen, right? And that goes for Swayman and for Korpisalo, right? Like they were a leaky tandem a year ago, and we're going to talk more about the backup in a minute here, I know, but like that was sort of the thing I noticed last year the most was like, and this is not revolutionary analysis, I understand, but like they were getting one absolutely dreadful performance from a goaltender like a week, and whatever momentum you would have or whatever good vibes you would have would be completely undone by that shellacking that whoever it was in net absorbed. And so I just feel like you can't afford that, you know, because they are going to be a goal-starved team, most likely, right? Like, we hope that one of those guys we talked about last episode pops, but like more likely they're a gutsy, grind it out, 4-3 win, 3-2 win. Like, that's the kind of team they're going to have to be, right? So the goaltending's got to be on point from game 1 through game 82. You can't have a clunker a week, because if you do, it's going to be more of the same that you were this past season, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's just to your point that like the thing about a young player popping, that's just hope. But like the Swayman, you know, that's a lock. Like he's a lock to be better than he was last year. So
you'd hope, right? Because if not, Matt, like this time next year or this time next offseason, we're having a much different discussion in terms of like, all right, 2 bad years in a row. Hasn't been good without a Vezina caliber riding shotgun with them. What do you have here? And are you making a trade? What do you do? Are you prioritizing maybe spending money at that position that you weren't otherwise planning on spending? Like, you're already spending $11.25 million at the goaltending position, which is pretty high in my opinion. It's high. Like, but what do you do? Right? Like, if he's not good for 2 years in a row, it's a tough conversation, because that's when you start to go, okay, we can't put our plan in motion here until we know what we have in net, because net is important. I don't care what people say, it's important. I think the Florida Panthers have proven that to have a reliable goaltender that is good in the clutch and is good with the lead and is not leaky, like, it makes a difference, right? Unless you have 10 all-stars, you need timely saves, right? And if you can get those out of Swayman, you're feeling a lot better about his game. And you know, he was giving you those, I thought, during the 2024 playoffs, you know, and it's ironic, right? Because I think the last memory people have is the game-winning goal that he gave up in game 6 in Boston. Kind of a crappy goal, but like to that point, he was incredible for them, right? And so you need those timely saves. You need to be good with the lead. And if Swayman can be that guy, you do feel a lot better about your team and about your fortunes moving forward. Because if not, you're back to the drawing board here, where you're like, we might be farther away than we think because we don't have a goalie that can make big quality saves.
Yeah, no, they need it. And one more point on Swayman before we move on to the other goalie. The 58 number, like, do you think that's going to go down? Like, is there going to be a little bit more of an even distribution in terms of who starts, or is that going to be something that they determine as the season goes along?
I'd like it to go down. I think 52 is a sweet spot. You know, 55 if you're in it, right? Like, if you're a wild card team and you got to get in, I think you can maybe ride him, but I don't think you want to be starting him, you know, 11 out of 13 games in December or whatever it is, right? Like what good does that do anybody? You know, like, you want to leave some bullets in the chamber, I think, for when you need them. And that comes back to having better trust in the guy behind him. but I don't believe in starting goalies for 55 games or more. I just don't. I think that the numbers kind of, dictate that you really shouldn't be doing that if you don't have to. I crunch these numbers, and every goalie who played over 55 games 2 years ago basically gave you like pretty shitty results after game 55. Whether it was UC Saros in Nashville, whether it was Connor Hellebuck in Winnipeg, not this past year, but the year before. There was another one I'm missing. Biddington, I think, was one of them. Like, you weren't getting good results out of those guys after game 55. I have the numbers in an old story that I wrote, I know, but I didn't do it for this past year. But like, for games 1 through 55, you had strong numbers, and then after 55, it like fell off a cliff. I'm talking guys posting 870s. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like
it's like 100 pitches in baseball. Or
right.
Like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same kind of concept. And so I think you can go over that number, but the Bruins should only go over that number if it's, late March and they are 1 point out of the playoffs and they really want to get in, right? Like, that's when you're like, all right, we gotta burn him a little bit here to try to get in. If you're not close, right, or if you're in comfortably, there is no sense in starting him almost 60 games. That's crazy in my opinion.
Yeah, like I think just slight downtick. The 50 to 52 range, I think is prudent. For
yeah, and keep in mind too that like Korpisalo was not happy with his usage a year ago, right? And talking to Don Sweeney after the season, I asked him about it. I said, how do you feel about your goaltending room? Do you feel like they are in a better place now than they were, at the end of the year? And he said, yeah, he feels that way. So, all right, that would mean that you're going to play Korpisalo or whoever the backup is more, because that guy doesn't want to be on the bench for 25 games. He wants to play more. So I think that if Sweeney's telling the truth, you're going to see more starts from the backup next year, because A, that's what the backup wants, but B, that is how you're going to maintain the health of that room, versus what you had a year ago, which was not healthy, which was not good, and wasn't good for anybody. Wasn't good for Swayman, wasn't good for Korpisalo, wasn't good for the Boston Bruins. This was the worst goaltending year they've had in a very long time. I want to say since like 97, 96, 97, which ended with them picking Joe Thornton. You know what I mean? Like, you can't have that again. It was borderline historically bad by modern goaltending standards.
Can't have it. So yeah, let's talk about Korpisalo a little bit. Pulled out his numbers, 27 appearances last year. He gave up 5 or more goals in 6 of his 27 appearances, so almost a quarter of
Not
the
great.
time he was giving up at least 5 goals. But look, I don't think he ever actually played under Marco Sturm. I think Sturm was in the minors when Korpisalo played for the Kings.
Yes.
But that was the best year of Korpisalo's career was with the Kings, and I would think that there's like the system is going to be similar to the Kings. Even though Sturm wasn't technically there when Korpisalo played, I'd imagine there's some kind of organizational familiarity there. And so
yeah, they played.
I would honestly predict
the same way.
I would honestly predict that Korpisalo is going to have a solid year because of the familiarity. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I am with Korpisalo. Like, I think there were pockets where he had some good games a year ago. Like, I think one of his final starts of the year, actually maybe his final start of the year, was the Pittsburgh game on the road where he was nails. He was awesome in that game for the Bruins. But, there are other games too. I think about the Islander game where the Bruins should have won that game and they didn't. And, he was a big hand in why they lost it. Like, he gave some crappy goals in that game. That was the home ice game where they lost. Bo Horvat, I think, had like the breakaway in overtime. There was that game. There was the game in New York where I felt like he gave a cheapie that really sunk them in that game. I think with Korpisalo, like, one of the things that he had games, I think he had 3 shutouts last year. So, like, I think he had some games where you were like, oh, wow, he looks good. But if you go back and you look at some of the teams he got, like, he kind of had a soft landing spot. Like, he was playing a lot of Philadelphia. He was playing a lot of Buffalo, the Islanders, who I mentioned. He lost that game. So, like, it's hard to look at his game last year and be like, he was better than you realize, because like they were trying to give him advantageous matchups and advantageous games. It's just, I don't know if he's going to be much better than what what's best case for him? A 900, a 905, maybe? Like,
Yeah.
like, so I think defensively, like if they're a better team, his number's going to go up. It's just how much are they going to go up, right? Like I just, there's something about his game that I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like I'm not a big Korpisalo guy. I fully admit it. And I'd love to be wrong. I'd love to be wrong about him, but it just feels like he's one of these goalies who will make 5 great saves in a row and then he lets up a clunker. And then it's like, all right, well,
Well,
there goes
that undid
that.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would love to get the LA Kings version of Joonas Korpisalo. It's just, I feel like we've seen a lot of the Ottawa, the Columbus, the Boston version that I'm kind of looking at and going, man, for $3 million, I don't know if I want that, right? And so if he can be a lot better, that'd be great. But I feel like this is a really interesting camp for him in the sense that, if we go back to this time last year, we were talking about Brandon Bussey, and we were kind of saying, can Brandon Bussey force an interesting call for the Boston Bruins, right? And I think with Korpisalo, it's kind of the same thing, where the odds are right now he is your backup goaltender, but you remember last preseason, Matt? Remember Joonas Korpisalo had like a 932 in the preseason last year, and you were kind of like, all right, well, he's winning the job. I wonder if he has to do something like that again to win the job out of camp. Because they have, once again, Don Sweeney was talking about young players pushing, and they got a young goalie behind Korpisalo right now that really might be pushing and might be knocking out the door. And if he outshines Korpisalo, LA connection or not, I just wonder what happens there because I don't know if you're going to get, let's say that Korpisalo improves, right? Even if he improves 10 percentage points, is he still a $3 million backup on a team that kind of needs every sliver of cap space they can find right now? That's what I wonder. Like, can the improvements make him a $3 million goaltender? I don't know, Matt. I don't know how you feel about it, but that's a tough one for me to like try to like be like, oh yeah, you're totally a $3 million backup right now.
Well, I think the cap going up makes it, more palatable, but it's still like a sliding scale. You know what I mean? Like you're still, either way, you're still kind of overpaid for what he is. You're talking about Michael DiPietro as the guy that might push him, I assume. I'm looking at
Yes.
So what would happen if Korpisalo like sucks in camp, loses the job? Like, what could they do with him contract wise? Like, I doubt they could find a trade partner or anything like that. Like,
Well,
what would happen there?
So real quick, I just want to like run through these real like just I like while we're on the topic here of Korpisalo. So Korpisalo is making $3 million for the next like 3 years, I think it is. Obviously $1 million of that is retained by the Ottawa Senators. It was $4 million, but it's down to $3 million for Boston. The guys directly above him and around him, like Vladar's making 3.35 now in Philadelphia. Charlie Lindgren's making $3 million right now in Washington. That money is going up, I believe. Freddie Anderson's making 2.75. Like those guys are like, I feel good about that price point. I don't feel good about Korpisalo and his price point. If he can have a good year, he's changing the conversation there. But with DiPietro signed a 2-year extension with the Boston Bruins, making $812,000. He's coming off winning the AHL version of the Vezina Trophy. He was the best goalie. He was all AHL first team a year ago. He had like a 931 or a 928 for Providence, a 2.05 goals against average. Like, this is a player that they have sunk now 2.5 years of development into. But he is also hitting the point now where it's NHL or waivers for him. He cannot be waived down to Providence without having to go through waivers. And I've said it on this podcast before. I'll say it again. A team will claim him. I think a team will claim. Why wouldn't you claim the reigning AHL Vezina? Like, if you're Chicago, if you're San Jose, if you're Edmonton, if you're Philly,
why not take a chance?
Why not take a chance? Why not do that? So I really do think that like the Bruins may have to make a tough call here with a guy like DiPietro and try to either maybe trade him to a team that is not the top of the waiver wire list if they feel like they'll get snatched up, or waive Korpisalo, and something we haven't seen in a very long time. I can't remember the last time we saw this. have 3 goaltenders on your roster and have an extended tryout go into the NHL regular season.
Yeah, look, I just think that this is what they should have done for years. This should have been the thing, like, for a long time. Especially when they decided to pay $8.25 million to Jeremy Swayman, they should have said, "All right, we're gonna save money on the other end of that." And I don't like that. It just blows my mind that they had to take on that Korpisalo contract in the Ullmark trade. It's just, well, I don't know if that was like they were forced to bring on that contract, or this is like what Sweeney wants. Like, this just goes back to the same rant I've had before. That, like, they just overinvested in everything when it comes to goalies, with the draft picks and the contracts and the backup contracts and goalie Bob. It's just like feels like an overinvestment at that position. But
I mean, listen,
they put a lot of eggs in that basket, so to speak.
Hindsight is 2020. I know, we all know, but would you rather have, a $13 million tandem for last year, and it's Ullmark and it's Swayman? Or would you rather have the $11 million tandem? And keep in mind with the $13 million tandem, you don't have Kastelik, you don't have Dean Letourneau. But, like, I don't know. Like, I thought once they pivoted away from Ullmark, it was all right. We're gonna have a cheap backup making $1 million, maybe $1.5 million at the very most, because we got the big high price goalie now. Like, to your point, it kind of defeats the purpose of it. The high price goalie, if you're gonna having a high price backup behind him, it's like, all right, well, okay. So where's the savings going? Arguably, do you have any savings by doing it that way? I really don't know.
Yeah, they really don't. It's like, it's just that they have to. They constantly give themselves these workarounds on the salary cap. It's frustrating. But I do have a sliver of hope that Korpisalo will deliver a pretty good season, just with the familiarity with the King system and Sturm and all that stuff. So,
I mean, ideally,
we'll see how it goes in camp, I guess.
So you asked, like, what could they do, right? Like, what can they realistically do with Korpisalo if DiPietro outplays him and earns that gig, right? So they could waive him, and if they waive him, they will gain 1.15 million in relief off a salary cap. So he'd have a dead cap hit of about 1.85 million. Now you factor that in with what DiPietro is making, and it's about, you'd save about $340,000, because you can't just waive Korpisalo and only have one goaltender. Like, you'd have to factor in, what else. The only way that makes a lot of sense is if you have a really good camp, and you want to carry, 3 extra skaters, right? And one of them makes a lot of money or whatever, like, and you're up against it. And, like, if you want to bank away daily salary cap space, like, that might be the best way to do it. It's like, hey, it's only 300,000 we're saving, but, like, we need that every day, right? I just wonder, like, Matt, like, if DiPietro has I would go with the three goalie room. I really would. Like, if neither guy proves anything in training camp and you don't want to lose DiPietro, let's just say, like, why not have it go into the regular season? Now obviously, the solution here is like, well, okay, well, if DiPietro has an 890 in training camp, is anyone claiming him? It's almost like a Brandon Bussey situation where Bussey hit waivers last year because he wasn't impressive in training camp, and it kind of resolved itself, right? But like, that's what you could do. Like, if you want to move off that, I think you could waive Korpisalo and not have him get claimed. The other option is you try to trade Korpisalo, which his agent has kind of refuted and said that his client doesn't want to be traded. But if you trade Korpisalo and you retain half the money, you're actually saving money. You're actually saving money versus just burying him in the minors. Again, it's a sliver of cap space. It's about under 400,000, but, like, that's better than having a dead contract on your books, while he rots in Providence. So, like, those are a couple of your options there. I just don't know if any team is knocking down the door right now saying, hey, we want Joonas Korpisalo at $3 million per, especially with what's gone on in the league, with Carter Hart being reinstated by the NHL. He can sign wherever he wants to sign. If someone wants to take a chance on him, they might do that over Korpisalo. And by someone, I'm talking to Edmonton here. Like, Edmonton feels like the team that needs a goaltender, right? Whether they claim DiPietro, whether they trade for Korpisalo, whether they sign Carter Hart, like, that feels like the team that needs stability in net. to get to where they want to be after it's been their undoing now in back-to-back Stanley Cup finals.
Yeah, I'd be okay with them having the 3 goaltenders. I think depth is good to have, especially when you're lacking it in other areas. Like, try to stack the net, and keep the guys fresh too. Like, you can keep Swayman fresh by throwing a DiPietro every now and then.
Well, also, like, that could be a strategic thing in the sense that, like, you are looking at it like, okay, well, if I play him in the regular season and he sucks, most teams have their goaltending situation handled by then. Are they going to claim a third goaltender and have to waive their other guy? Like,
Right.
It's kind of like you see it with the NFL, right? Where, like, teams like releasing guys after 53-man rosters have been announced because it's like, all right, I can get them on the practice squad probably a little bit easier now that other teams have solidified their own 53-man roster.
Yeah. Right, like that. Yeah, the Patriots did that with like 8 guys.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
keep doing it. They're doing it every other day.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, like I wouldn't be surprised if maybe there's like an option that's explored. Like, go back to that record-setting Bruins season, right? Like, opening day, they waive Nick Foligno, they waive Chris Wagner, they waive Mike Riley, and they do it just to create some more options for themselves. Just to say, we know guys aren't going to get claimed. So, like, but this allows us to maybe send him down on a paper transaction, or this allows us to get a different look at somebody. Like, Nick Foligno was waived while he was boarding, like, the team plane to go down to Washington for opening night. Like, he was never going to Providence. You know what I mean? Like, so maybe there's something like that as well, where they make those moves, but it's mainly just to have flexibility versus outright getting rid of the guy, so to speak.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right. Well, do you have any other thoughts on the goaltending before we move on to some league stuff?
No, not really. The kid that they signed out of the Czech played in the Prospects Challenge this past weekend.
Zajicek.
Yeah, he played in the Prospects Challenge. Actually had a couple of good showings there. Had like a 930, I think, in his 2 games. So not a whole lot to glean from those outings. I know it's glorified summer hockey, but but again, like, that's a guy that, right now he's probably number 4 on your depth chart, and so you'd like to have good depth there, and you hope you can keep it rolling for the Boston Bruins.
You just reminded me of something that Don Sweeney was saying at the golf event. He didn't want guys coming back into camp with a shitty mentality, which I wasn't familiar with the term shitty, which I guess is like Canadian slang for street hockey or pond hockey.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of this term. I thought he said shitty mentality.
Yeah.
At first, I was like,
"There's no way." You don't want that either.
I was like, "There's no way he said that. Did he say shitty? What is that?" And I googled it, and I was like, "Oh, okay, that's a hockey term."
I mean, if he's referring to last year's team as shitty, like can we really blame him?
Yeah, Jeremy Swayman had a shitty mentality last year. I think we can conclude that.
It'd be so funny if like Don. I'm just imagining Don Sweeney building the team last year, like it's a soup, and he's like takes one sip, like, tastes like shit, throws it all out just immediately. But yes, no, shinny is like a little slang for yeah.
No, it makes sense. It makes perfect sense. In retrospect,
it's like pickup. Yeah, I think it's like pickup.
It's like pickup hockey. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully no shinny mentality when the Bruins get to camp. All right. Well, let's before we get out of here, we want to get to this league thing that's going around.
Some quick hitters,
right,
baby.
Big time contract things going on. Connor McDavid he's an obvious one. He's going into the last year of his contract. I don't know all the details, the latest details about his dispute, but like that just sort of speaks for itself. It's the best player on the planet, and he doesn't have a contract. The other one is Kirill Kaprizov in Minnesota. There's been a lot of conflicting reports. Frank Saravelli reported he turned down 8 years, $60 million a year. Bill Guerin denied that. Conflicting reports about Kaprizov apparently being asked to give a trade list. I think that was also disputed. There was a report. I don't know how credible this outlet is. RG. There was a guy that reported here that Kaprizov and I think McDavid to boot are pushing for the maximum allotment on the cap of 20% on their next contract. And so, next year, that we're talking next year, right? That would be around 20 million. And then the year after that would be about 22 million because the cap is jumping this year, but it's jumping next year and the year after that as well. So yeah, it's a tricky situation for I think the clubs, and I don't blame the players for holding out for as much as they can get. Like I know like it's tricky though with like the maximum percentage thing. So there might just have to be some kind of compromise between the Edmonton and McDavid, and then Minnesota and Kaprizov. But what do you make of that whole situation?
Yeah, man, this one's wild.
No pun
I think
intended.
I feel like with Kaprizov, like, he's probably the best winger that's ever going to hit the open market. Kucherov didn't hit the open market. Pastrnak didn't hit the open market. Like, it's so rare that I think the last player who was this good was that hit the open market was Artemi Panarin, and we all knew that he was going to New York.
I was gonna say
Crazy.
Yager.
Yeah, like it's rare to have a player this good hit the open market, and I wonder if there's something here with McDavid too, where like everyone's in a holding pattern until McDavid decides what he's doing, because he is the Shohei Ohtani of hockey. He's a LeBron James of hockey, and once he makes his decision, everyone else is going to fall in the line there and say, oh, well, he re-signed in Edmonton. So now I'm the best player on the market, and I might be able to get 18 million from somebody because the market is dwindling. Like think about how, this market this past year was not good, right? And how like all of a sudden you have Ekblad, Marchand, and Bennett all off the market. And now, teams are lining up for Nikolai Ehlers, who is a fine player, but it's not the same caliber as what you thought would have been available, this time a year ago. And so I just feel like McDavid is like the big piece holding everything up, because like, what is his price point going to be, right? What is he going to make? And is he going to stay at Edmonton? I have a hard time thinking he's going to leave Edmonton, but like, if he wants out, right? If he thinks I can't win here, you know where he could go, Matt? He can go to Chicago. Chicago has like 70 million cap space available for next year. They got to re-sign Bedard. But if you're going from, if you're McDavid and you're like, I can play with Connor Bedard, move him to the wing, and that's the guy I'm feeding for the next 10 years. Like that's a great 1-2 probably, or down the middle. That's your 1-2, like whatever you want to do. But like, they have a lot of cap space. I know Pittsburgh has a lot of cap space as well. Anaheim has built a great young core, and they have tons of cap space available. So like, he could really have the pick of the litter in terms of where he wants to go, obviously. But like, there are some teams that could appease that potential. Oh, you want 18, 20 million? Like, yeah, we can do that. We'll make that happen because we can afford it. Edmonton can afford it, but does he look at Edmonton and say, all right, you got Dry making 14 or whatever, you got Bouchard making 10. If I make 18, can we have a good team? We still don't have a goalie. Like I just wonder like if he can almost craft his way into the decision 2.0, where he's like, well, that team's got a good young D. They got great forwards and they got a goalie. I'm going here and making the same money that I would in Edmonton. Like I like Edmonton would bend over backwards for McDavid. I just wonder though, if he's going to angle this for like a LeBron kind of thing, where it's like, hey, what's your pitch? Who am I playing with? What's the plan? How we getting there? Edmonton, they might have too many contracts on the books now where you're like, it's going to get even tighter for us. So I don't know if it's a good fit for me long term. I just
that'd be the best story ever if they were like all of a sudden they had to talk about trading him or McDavid hitting the open market. That would be the best shit ever. Nothing to do with Edmonton, just a player of that caliber.
Like if you told me like, oh, we're gonna trade 6 first-round picks for him, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. That sounds about right. Like if you're the Bruins, right, and if you wanted to get in on that market, I imagine it's like, all right, we want James Higgins and 5 first-round picks, and I'd be like, you know what, that makes sense. That's a fair ask. I don't know, just
take our draft board. Just take the draft board. It's fine.
Yeah. It feels like that is kind of how it would go if you were the Bruins.
So like, I don't necessarily believe like McDavid trying to push for the absolute maximum money, like for the reasons you laid out there. Kaprizov, I could see it because he's 29 years old. Like this is gonna be his last chance to really cash in. This is gonna be his last big contract. So it's like I need to get as much as I can. But yeah, no, it makes perfect sense that McDavid would be the one to set the market there. One more topic, Ty. They finally closed the loophole. NHL implementing a playoff salary cap. It's kind of crazy that they went this long with that loophole being there. I know it's like kind of like a CBA thing, but Like it was well overdue that they had to make that change. And so, excuse me, no more circumventing the cap with a long-term IR. So it'll be interesting to see how teams maneuver their way around that going forward.
Yeah, long overdue. I think if you're the Boston Bruins, relating it to Boston, what an absolute, just another swift kick to the penis about them not winning a Stanley Cup in 2023 with a roster that was effectively like $8 million over the cap for game one of the playoffs. Like they tried it. They had 1 year where they tried it, and it
cheated.
Didn't work.
They couldn't
it's
even
unbelievable.
Cheat properly.
Oh my God. You had Orlov, you had Hall, you had Hathaway, you had
Bertuzzi.
Like you were $8 million over what the cap was that year, and you still lost in round one. I think that's the absolute kicking the penis for the Boston Bruins. Again, you saw Vegas win it. You saw Tampa win it. You saw Florida win it. Chicago in 2015. All these teams use the LTIR loophole to their advantage, and even Edmonton tried it. Evander Kane is an example of a guy like that for them. It's just man, to not win it while that loophole was in effect, it's like just another twist of that knife for the Bruins fans, and the window that should have presented the Bruins with a lot more than what they got.
Absolutely. But it is good to know that, Lord, like the Panthers and the Lightning can't torment us anymore like they used to.
Oh, they'll find a way. They'll find some like Florida tax code loophole where like they can sign a guy for like $11, but he's really making like $95 million or something like that. Like it'll be something weird. Florida's a lawless land with lizards and iguanas everywhere. It's a very scary place. I love it, but it's very scary.
Yeah, they put him on the payroll for like a Jack in the Box down the street or something like that. It's just pay him under the table.
Yeah, Bill Zito's like, look at iguana. It's like, what do you mean iguana? It's like iguana. Now they just want to stand the cup.
He just walks away, doesn't no explanation.
Yeah, no, that's what Florida is, though. Oh my God. No, but like, I like what I like about this rule change is that it's the simplest solution. Hey, your playoff roster salary cap's got to be cap compliant. Like that was kind of like the solution that made the most sense, right? I just feel like now it's going to get really interesting in terms of money retention with certain teams. Like if you have a guy that is out for the season but can return for the playoffs, like I wonder if you're getting a third or a fourth team or a fifth team involved in terms of salary retention so that you can still be cap compliant in the playoffs, when you got to ice that roster and potentially fit player X in while acquiring player Y. That's something that I think the capologists now are going to have to work overtime. Sorry, Evan Gold, your life just got a lot harder for the Boston Bruins, I know, but that's the name of the game here with these contracts. Is like you got to find every loophole and every mechanism you can use to take advantage of it. But when it comes to closing that loophole, how do you feel about it? I like it because I just thought it was like it was becoming far too like blatant in terms of like how teams were like abusing the salary cap. Like it was hidden in plain sight at this point. It felt like.
Yeah, no, it was blatantly abused and exploited. It was not something that should have been a thing. Like I'm fine with them closing that thing.
Yeah, that's like, like when the Bruins acquired Bertuzzi, right? And Hall and Foligno were out until effectively the playoffs. I think Hall made one appearance before he was back. It was like I saw them. They could have played. You know what I mean? They probably could have played games for the Bruins down the stretch. I know Foligno was in a cast for a little while, but like you kind of knew what they were doing, right? You knew what they were angling for. And so like it was kind of just like a really bad cover, in a lot of respects.
Yeah. It's just a tricky thing because like you can't prove the guy's not injured,
Right, exactly. Although I think they were looking into the Oilers for the Evander Kane thing. I want to say the NHL was was debating investigating the Oilers about Evander Kane. So
Evander Kane getting investigated. It's a tradition like no other.
Yeah. Real quick before we go, Matt. You see the new Red Wings Centennial jersey?
No.
So they have
pull that up.
Yeah, they have a new jersey. Pull it up, Barth. They have a new. My only
Big Jake in the control room. Bring it up.
My only tweet during the Patriots game yesterday was, Barth, when's the last time that happened? about the kickoff?
I saw that. You didn't even add him. You're just like hopefully he sees this.
Yeah, exactly. No, they have a new Centennial jersey. It's okay. But this brings you back to bring it back to the Bruins. only further reinforces what I have felt as we have drifted further and further away from them. The Bruins nailed their Centennial jersey and the logo and everything. They did a great job with that. Not to say Detroit didn't do a great job, but the jerseys, I was like, I loved the 100 using the winged wheel. Love that. Thought that was a great logo. The jersey, I was like, okay. Looks like an outdoor game jersey, in my opinion.
Where's I'm on the NHL.com Red Wings website article about the jersey. They don't have a picture of the full uniform.
No, they tweeted it. It was like a video.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just find it on your own, whatever. Like
I'll find it on my own time.
Yeah, and then record a bonus episode with a 35-second take about what you think about it.
I like the logo. So yeah, I'll have to give my thoughts on the actual jersey. All right, Ty.
Hot take, by the way. Hot take, by the way, with jerseys.
What's that?
When we make these lists of like ranking the top 5 best jerseys in hockey, I formally moved to exclude the original 6. Yeah, they're great. They're old. We got to get rid of, stop including them. I'm sick of every great jersey list ending with the Chicago Blackhawks. We get it. It's a cool logo. It's been around for 100 years. We got to exclude the original 6. I want jersey listings that are top 6 forbidden. I don't want that anymore.
How about we just do it like this century or last 50 years or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. That's my hot take I'm closing with, Matt.
I think that's understandable. It's almost like you can't have a quarterback debate anymore without Tom Brady, because Tom Brady ruined it for everybody.
I love old stuff. If you like old stuff, you're gonna like this. That's what I'm
telling you. Johnny Unitas had more competition in the 50s.
Yes, exactly.
That'll do it for this week's episode. If you made it this far, thanks. I love you. This is the Sports Hub Underground. I'm Matt Dolph. He's Ty Anderson. Again, like if you're watching on YouTube, I mean, you got us on YouTube, but if you're listening on audio, if you happen to be listening to this episode on audio, that means we were able to figure out the technical difficulties on the new Sports Hub audio platform, and hopefully we can do that. We want to get this out to as many people as possible. But that might be the end of the training camp previews. We might have one more as training camp gets going, but training camp starts on Wednesday and the practices start Thursday, and so gonna have extensive coverage on that at 98.5thesportshub.com and plenty more podcasts to come. Thanks for listening, folks. We'll talk to you again soon.